Zira stood tall above the crowd, her broad shoulders and powerful arms making her look like a living wall of strength. She was from the Varrock species, known for their size and warrior history. Her skin was a deep silver tone, her eyes sharp like ice. But inside she carried a silence, a belief that no one would ever see her as more than a weapon. The humans had arrived on her planet 10 years ago after the Great Peace Treaty. They built research stations and trade posts, and they called it cooperation. But Zira always felt like an outsider in her own land. The humans were smaller, softer, always smiling, always talking, and Zira tried to ignore the way they looked at her, like a machine, like a danger, like something not meant for love. She walked through the scrapyard every morning, fixing broken cargo doors and lifting machines. No one else could move, her hands covered in grease, her back soaked with sweat. She worked without rest. She preferred silence over company, until the day he showed up. Eli was not like the other humans. He was thin and pale, and always carried a little tool kit on his belt. He had a crooked smile and eyes that looked like calm sky. He greeted her without fear or judgment, like she was normal, like she belonged, and that made Zira feel confused. On that day, the sky turned red with warning lights. A cargo crane lost control and began to fall. Workers screamed, and scattered metal crashed against metal. A young human was trapped below the wreckage. Zira moved before anyone else, her legs heavy like stone, but fast. She reached the boy in seconds, lifted the crane arm with both hands, and pulled the boy out, her muscles burning, her body shaking. The wreckage shifted again, and this time it was Eli who was in danger. He was checking the panel too close to the falling wall. Zira saw him and didn't think. She ran to him, grabbed his arm and pushed him away, but the structure broke above them. She covered him with her body, held him close. The steel hit her back but didn't break her. Eli stared up at her, eyes wide, full of shock, full of something else. Do something, warm you. Didn't have to do that, he said, his voice trembling. She didn't answer, just stood slowly, the metal groaning under her feet. She looked down at him, his hand resting on her arm. You saved me, he whispered again. She turned away, her voice low. I'm not soft human. I'm not made for saving. I'm just big, strong, heavy. That's all. Eli stood too, his hand still touching her arm, and he shook his head slow. That's not all you are, Zira. You think strength is all people see, but when you held me just now, I didn't feel fear. I felt safe. She froze, her back stiff, her heart beating like war drums. She had heard lies before, sweet words, empty words. But this felt different. It felt like truth, and that scared her more than the falling steel. You humans like small things, soft things. I'm none of that, she said, her voice bitter, rough like sand. Eli smiled gently, still standing too close, still looking up at her, like she was something beautiful. Maybe that's why I like you. You don't pretend, you don't break, you stand and protect and bleed and still keep going. Zira looked at him, eyes narrowing, unsure if he was teasing, mocking, lying. She wanted to walk away, but her feet didn't move, her hands didn't lower. You think I'm breeding material? She asked suddenly, a sharp laugh in her voice. I'm not made for love, not even by my own kind. Eli stepped even closer, now his voice soft, calm like morning rain. I don't care what you were made for. I care what you feel, and right now I feel something when I look at you. Something strong, something real. Zira felt her breath catch her chest, rising heavy like a mountain storm. She didn't speak. She didn't know what to say. She only looked at him, and for the first time in years, she didn't feel like a weapon. She felt like a person. Behind them, the rescue bots arrived, flashing lights and orders breaking the moment. Eli stepped back slowly. But not far. We'll talk again, he said with a smile that wasn't fake, that wasn't forced, and he walked away. Looking back just once, Zira stood still in the broken yard, metal around her, sparks in the air, and something strange inside her, a warmth that had nothing to do with fire. She whispered to herself words she had never said before. Maybe I'm not too big, maybe I'm just enough. Asterisk. The night wind whispered through the outpost as Zira stood alone on the platform, her tall figure glowing under the twin moons. Her arms folded, her mind not calm, not strong like usual. She kept seeing his face, Eli's face, the human engineer with soft hands and kind eyes, who smiled like she was not a monster, who looked at her like she was something precious. It Was dangerous to think of him too much. Feelings were for weak hearts, and warriors of Varak were not weak. That was what they were taught from birth. Fight. Don't feel, win, don't love. But then why did her chest ache when he left? Why did her mind replay every word he said like it was a secret melody made only for her? Footsteps behind her, slow, careful. She knew who it was before she turned. Ile stood there holding a small box in his hands, looking unsure. Looking human. Brought you this, he said, lifting the box. It's just tea, nothing fancy, but it helps with stress, or so they say. Zyra didn't take the box, didn't speak for a long moment, her eyes sharp and quiet. Why do you keep following me? She asked, her voice cold, but her hands trembling. Inside, Dealey smiled, not stepping back, not afraid. Maybe I like talking to people who scare me. Zyra raised an eyebrow, her jaw tight in, not trying to scare anyone. I just don't talk to humans much. Then talk to me like I'm not a human, just someone. Ile said gently. She looked away, her gaze lost in the stars. I'm not like your women, Ile. I'm not soft. I'm not pretty, and I'm not built for closeness. Ile sat down on the platform cross-legged and placed the tea box between them. Good thing I'm not looking for soft, pretty, or usual. I fix broken things, Zyra, and sometimes the best machines are the ones that look strong on the outside, but still hum quietly on the inside. She sat too finely, her massive frame sinking down slowly beside him, their shoulders close, but not touching. Why do you talk to me like I matter? She said without looking at him. Because you do, he replied, simple, true, and quiet. Zyra laughed dry and bitter. You don't know what you're saying. My people don't even think I'm fit to be chosen. I'm too tall, too harsh. They call me the blunt blade, good in battle, useless in love. Ile looked at her, not shocked, not confused, but full of something warmer than light. Then your people are blind, because I see someone worth knowing, worth trusting. She didn't speak. Her hands rested on her knees, fists closed tight. My last partner, a human. She used to laugh at me behind my back. Zyra said after a long silence. She said I was a joke, said no human could ever want someone like me. Lee leaned forward, his voice low and serious. Then she was never worth your time. Anyone who can't see your strength as beautiful doesn't deserve your heart. Zyra blinked, her eyes sharp but her breath softening. You think I'm beautiful? She said, not angry, not teasing, just surprised. I think you're more than beautiful. Ile answered, you're rare, strong, honest. You don't pretend to be something you're not. For the first time, Zyra looked at him, not like a human, not like an outsider, but like someone real, someone close, someone maybe meant for her. You strange human, she said, but not with hate, with something close to wonder. He laughed, that easy, broken laugh. Maybe I am, but maybe strange is exactly what you need. They sat like that for a while, two different bodies, two different worlds sharing one quiet sky. Then the siren wailed from the tower, warning light blinking in the dark. Another breach on the lower level. Ile stood up fast, ready for work again. You coming with me? He asked, half smiling, half serious. Zyra stood too taller than him by almost 2 heads. Always, she said. They ran side by side toward the lift boots, hitting the ground together. 2 beats becoming one, and in her heart Zyra felt something dangerous, something strong, something real. She was still afraid, still unsure, but maybe, just maybe, she was ready to feel. The rain on planet Core didn't fall like Earth's rain. It floated slow like silver dust, dancing in the low gravity. Zyra stood under it, unmoving, letting the cold drops slide down her armor, letting the noise hide the storm inside her chest. Had not seen Ile in 3 days, not since the breach, not since he smiled at her with those sky-colored eyes and said, always, like it meant more than protection, more than duty. Now every sound made her ears twitch, every voice she heard, she hoped it was him, but when it wasn't, she felt something sharp in her chest, and Zyra didn't like it. Warriors were not built for missing someone. She punched the steel wall near the barracks hard enough to leave a dent. Her hand stung, but her thoughts kept spinning. What is wrong with Mesh? Tried to focus on her drills, her mission, her duty, but Eli's voice kept slipping through her mind, soft, steady, fearless. Zyra, you're more than what they see. She hated that she remembered it word for word. She hated more that she wanted to hear it again. The door behind her slid open. She turned fast, ready for orders, ready for trouble. It was Eli, soaking Wet, smiling like an idiot holding a broken scanner in both hands. "I thought I might find you here," he said softly. "This thing blew up in my face again, and I figured who better to fix it than the strongest hands on base." Zira crossed her arms tight to stop them from reaching for him. "Why are you here, Eli? Why are you bothering with me?" "Because I want to be here with you," he said without pause, without fear. She stared at him, silent, her chest rising like thunder in a cage. "You don't get it," she finally said, her voice a mix of steel and ache. "You think I'm some mystery to solve, some strong alien to fix, but I'm not. I'm broken, Eli. I don't know how to love. I was never taught." Eli stepped closer, the rain falling around him, not on him like the wind itself, respected his calm. "I'm not trying to fix you, Zira. I'm trying to know you and maybe show you that you're already whole." She backed up one step, then another, her breath uneven, her voice louder. "Now you humans touch and kiss and say sweet things like it's easy, but for me, it's not easy. Nothing is easy. You think I'm like your women's soft skin, small hands, sweet voices. I'm not. I'm a weapon, Eli. I don't fit in your world." Eli didn't step back. He reached out slowly, gently, and placed one hand on her wrist. "Then make a new world with me, one where you do fit, one where no one tells you who you're allowed to be." Zira looked down at his hand on hers, like it was something dangerous and new, like fire that didn't burn her. Voice dropped low, just above a whisper. "You make me feel weak, Eli, and I don't know if I can survive that." Eli looked up at her, rain sliding down his face like tears that weren't sad. "You call it weakness. I call it being real." She didn't mean to, but her hand moved, her fingers curled around his without thinking, and in that second time, slowed. The rain froze. The wind hushed and nothing else existed, but their hands touching, skin to skin, pulse to pulse. Eli took one more step, his voice warm like sunlight, breaking through clouds. "Let me be near you, Zira, not because you need me, not because you're lonely, just because you want to." She looked at him, eyes wide, heart full, and said nothing because words had become too small. So she didn't speak. She pulled him close, and for the first time in her life, Zira leaned down, touched her forehead gently against his, and let herself feel, and it didn't break her. It made her whole. The sky turned red just before the storm came, not the color of fire, but the color of warning, the kind of red that told old warriors to take shelter and young ones to stay awake all night. Zira stood on the edge of the west tower, her armor removed, her skin glowing faint silver under the strange light, her heart full of questions she didn't know how to answer. Behind her, Eli worked on the generator again, mumbling at the PC wires as if they could hear him, his jacket already half soaked with dust and sweat. "You should go back inside," she said without turning, her voice firm, but not cold. Didn't look up, just kept working, his fingers steady, his breath calm. "And leave you alone up here in the red sky, not a chance." She closed her eyes for a second, not because of anger, but because of the strange heat in her chest. "You too human," she muttered, "and you're too brave for your own good," he said back without thinking. That made her smile, not fully, but enough for the wind to notice. The storm came fast, lightning without, thunder slicing across the sky. They both ran to the emergency shelter, a small metal dome, barely big enough for two. Door locked behind them, sealed. Tight, wind howling outside like wild animals inside. Silence. Eli sat down on the floor, his knees almost touching hers. Zira stayed standing, her arms crossed, her face unreadables. "This is cozy," he joked, but she didn't laugh. Instead, she said, "I've been thinking about what you said the other day." "Which part?" he asked gently. "The part where you said we could make a new world." He looked up slowly, eyes soft, lips quiet, waiting. Zira leaned against the wall behind her, arms still folded, but her voice low and unsure. "I want to believe you, Eli. I want to believe there's space for someone like me in your life, but what if I'm wrong? What if this ends, and you go back and I stay here with a broken heart and a body too big for comfort?" Eli stood now. "Not too fast, not too close," he said. "If I wanted comfort, I'd be on Earth sipping warm drinks and living easy, but I came here, I stayed here, and I keep showing up, because this is where I found something rare." Zira looked at him like he was speaking another language, one she had forgotten long ago. He stepped closer slowly, like a man walking through a dream. "You don't scare me," Zira, not your strength, not your height, not your silence. I don't want a perfect woman, I want a real one, and you're the most real person I've ever met. She shook her head once then again, like she was fighting herself. What if we can't have a child? What if our species don't match? What if I fail you in the one way that matters? Eli reached for her hand, not to pull it, just to hold it steady. Then we'll love each other anyway, he whispered. Even if no child ever comes, even if the stars fall, and the sky forgets our names. I'll still have this, you and me. Zira's hand was trembling now, but she didn't pull it away. She let him hold it, let him speak, and for the first time she didn't feel like a creature hiding behind steel. She felt like a woman standing at the edge of something true. The wind outside screamed louder, the dome shook, but inside everything was still. And then she kissed him. It wasn't soft, it wasn't shy, it was full of everything she had held back for years, fear and hope and hunger, and the kind of need that only grows in the quiet between battles. When they pulled apart, Eli's forehead rested against hers. The red sky flashed through the tiny window, casting long shadows over them both. Zira whispered, I'm not ready for forever. Eli whispered back, then let's start with tonight. And in that storm shelter made of steel and silence, two broken beings fit together like puzzle pieces, forgotten by war, but remembered by love. Zira stood at the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back at her. She still had the same strong shoulders, the same sharp jaw, the same tall frame built for battle, but her eyes were softer now, like something inside them had been touched and never healed back the same. She reached out, touched the glass with her fingertips, and whispered to her reflection, what have I done? Air in me outpost was quiet that morning. No alarms, no shouting, only her own heartbeat echoing in her chest. It had been 21 days since that night in the storm shelter. 21 days since she kissed Eli and let herself feel like more than a weapon now. The silence between them was louder than any war drum. Zira avoided him, not because she was angry, but because she was scared of the way her body felt different, scared of the dreams that wouldn't stop, scared of the warmth growing inside her. She had gone to the medbay in secret, let the machine scan her body, expecting nothing but the screen. Blinked once, then again, and a line of green words appeared like a whisper across her bones. Early stage gestation detected. Subject Zira, unclassified hybrid. She had stared at the screen, not breathing, not moving, not understanding how it could be true. Her hand flew to her stomach, flat and hard like always, but now something was growing inside her, something impossible, something hers. And his. Zira didn't cry, she didn't scream. She just sat down in the cold room and said, I told him I couldn't. He told him I wasn't made for this. Later that evening, she found Eli on the repair deck, working with his hands again, grease on his jaw, eyes full of quiet focus. She didn't call out, just watched him for a moment, wishing things were simpler. He turned around without her saying a word. Zira, you okay? She stepped forward slowly, her hands curled into fists at her sides. We need to talk, she said flatly. Eli dropped the wrench, wiped his hands on his jacket, waited. She didn't look at him when she spoke, didn't want to see his reaction. I'm pregnant. Silence, real silence, the kind that presses on your chest like a heavy blanket. Eli blinked once, then again, like the words hadn't reached him yet. What did you say? She looked up, finally, eyes hard but wet at the corners. I said I'm pregnant with your child, and I don't know how, and I don't know if it's going to survive, and I don't know if I'm strong enough for this. Eli didn't speak, didn't move. She continued, my people will call me impure, yours will call me a mistake. You said you wanted me, not because I could carry your child, but now everything has changed. Eli stepped forward, not fast, not slow, just real. He placed both hands gently on her arms, not gripping, not holding, just there. You listen to me, Zira, he said softly. This isn't a mistake and you are not broken. You never were. Shook her head. But I told you I'm not breeding material. I'm not built for this. And I told you I didn't fall in love with your body. Eli whispered, I fell in love with the fire in you, with the way you look at the stars like they owe you something, with the way you saved me when no one else moved. Zira tried to step back, but he followed, not letting her run. If we have a child, he said, it will grow up knowing its mother is the strongest person I've ever met. She looked down at her stomach again, still flat, still unreal. And you? She asked quietly, are you ready for this? He smiled then, not wide, not bright, just true. I was ready the first time you looked at me and didn't walk away. Zara closed her eyes, and for once she didn't feel fear. She felt something bigger, something growing, something alive. Zira never believed in miracles. Her life had been war training, silence duty, not wishes, not soft things, not hope. But now she stood in the medbay again. The room smelled like metal and fear. Her hand rested on her belly, where something small and impossible was growing. The machine confirmed it again. Heartbeat detected. DNA confirmed. Human Varrock hybrid alive. She sat on the cold bench, her armor tossed aside like it didn't matter anymore. Her hands trembled, not from weakness, but from knowing that something inside her could change everything. The door opened, not gently, not respectfully, but with anger. Commander Varn walked in, tall like her Varrock elder, his face carved from stone. Is it true? He growled, eyes narrowing. Your blood mixed with a human. Shura stood, slow, proud, afraid, but not showing it. Yes, she said, I carry his child. You shame your people, he barked. You were one of our finest warriors, and now you become a womb for an outsider. Didn't flinch, didn't bow. She met his eyes. Fire steady in her bones had become something more. She said, I loved and was loved, and now I carry the first life between our kinds. That is not shame, that is history. But not all saw it that way. The whispers spread across the outpost. Some humans called it unnatural. Some Varrock called it betrayal, a child made from war and peace. Too human for warriors, too alien for settlers. Felt the stares, the muttering, even the silence from friends who once fought beside her. And then one night, it wasn't just words. She came back from patrol and found the door to her quarters open. Inside, things broken, clothes torn, a red mark on the wall, a warning, stay pure, leave the hybrid to die. Her hands tightened, her breath sharp. Her belly felt cold like it knew. She dropped to the floor, checked herself, checked for pain. The baby was still safe, but something else was broken inside her. The part that believed people would understand later. That night, Eli found her sitting in the dark. No lights, no armor, just a blanket around her shoulders. I should leave this place, she said. They don't want me. They don't want this child. Eli kneeled beside her, voice shaking but firm. Then we leave together. We go to the outer colony. We build a home where no one calls our child a mistake. Zira looked at him, eyes wide, lips parted. You'd give up your work, your station, your people. He nodded once. Because this child is ours, because you are mine, and I won't let anyone take that away. She didn't speak, didn't cry. She leaned into him, her forehead resting on his chest, and for a moment, the world was small, just their breaths, their heartbeats, their future. But outside, someone still watched, someone who had already decided that this child should not be born. The council room was built from black stone and quiet rules. Every voice echoed, every heartbeat felt too loud. Zara stood in the center, alone, tall, pregnant. Her hands rested gently on her belly, her body strong, but her spirit was tired. She had fought many battles, but never one like this. Eli sat behind the barrier, not allowed to speak, not allowed to touch her. His fists were tight, his eyes locked on her like she might vanish if he blinked around. Then the Varrock elders and human leaders stared down, like judges, their faces stone, their words cold. You disobeyed your caste, said one elder. You mixed what should never mix. This child is a danger, a general said from the human side. It could disrupt balance between our people. Zira didn't flinch, didn't look away. She stood tall like she always had, but this time her heart stood with her. She spoke, not loud but clear. This child is not a weapon. This child is not a mistake. It is a future, one that belongs to both of us, to both worlds. She looked at Eli, and he looked back. No fear, only love. The council murmured, voices rising. Fear always louder than reason. And then Zira gasped, her hand pressed to her belly. Pain shot through her like fire. The med-droid raced to her side, vitals unstable labor beginning now. Hearing broke into chaos, Eli ran forward. Guards tried to stop him. He shoved past them like the floor didn't matter. "I am here," he whispered. "I've got you." Zira collapsed into his arms, not with weakness, but trust. "Help me," she breathed. "It's time." The medical wing was cold and bright. Zira had never feared pain. But this pain was different. It wasn't destruction. It was creation. Eli held her hand the whole time. Didn't speak much, just breathed with her and out, like they were one body. Hours passed. Like storms, and then a cry high, clear, alive. A nurse held up the child, tiny, wrinkled, with silver-tinged skin and soft blue eyes, neither human nor Varak. Something new. Zira reached out with shaking arms, held her baby against her chest, felt its tiny heartbeat, heard its breathing. Her voice broke when she said, "I thought I wasn't enough." Eli placed his hand over hers, looked at the child, then at her. "You were always more than enough." The council entered quietly, not with anger, not with pride, just silence. Elder, who once called her impure, stepped forward, looked at the child, then at Zira, and bowed his head. The human general lowered his eyes too. No words, but no more war outside. The twin suns rose together for the first time in weeks, and inside that small room a new world began. Zira sat on the edge of the bed, her child asleep in her arms, Eli beside her, eyes full of wonder. "We didn't just survive," she whispered. "We changed everything." Eli nodded, smiling softly. "And we're just getting started."